Last week in Michigan politics, it was election night in communities across Michigan. We break down the biggest results across the area. Plus, updates on food assistance funding for the federal SNAP program, when Michigan recipients are expected to receive benefits. And local officials take another step in deciding whether to undo one city's ban on Sunday alcohol sales, where that's happening and what was done. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on your side rundown. And we begin with your voice, your vote, and some of the results from across West Michigan in Tuesday's local elections. In Muskegon, unofficial results show Mayor Ken Johnson won his re-election bid with roughly 63% of the unofficial vote. City voters also approved a proposal for 12-year term limits for members of the City Commission. That succeeded with about 59% of the unofficial vote. And in Kentwood, unofficial results showed Stephen Kepley winning another 4-year term as mayor. With all precincts reporting, he led Kent County Commissioner Monica Sparks by less than 600 votes. And a number of local schools had proposals on West Michigan ballots as well, some more successful than others. 13 on your side, Stephen Bonner has those results.
Election day was a win for many school districts across West Michigan, with over 3/4 of all school millage and bond proposals being approved in Kent, Ottawa, and Muskegon counties. Let's take a look at what proposals were approved by voters and which ones failed. In Kent County, voters approved the Byron Center Public Schools bond proposal. The $110 million bond will be used to, quote, address capacity issues the district is experiencing in academic spaces, arts programs, and athletic facilities, while also addressing infrastructure, technology, and busing. In East Grand Rapids, voters approved a sinking fund millage proposal for the district. The district said the funds raised are for a variety of uses, including construction or repair of buildings, security improvements, purchasing or upgrading technology, maintenance, and much more. Voters also approved a $44.5 million bond proposal for Godwin Heights School District, which the district said they would use to address the need to update and modernize our learning spaces. In Granville, voters approved an operating millage renewal and a sinking fund millage proposal. The operating millage is only levied against non-homestead properties and is used for operational expenses. The district said the sinking fund millage would be used primarily for, quote, major repairs, renovations, construction, technology upgrades, security improvements, and transportation vehicles. A county-wide millage proposal supporting the Kent County Intermediate School District also passed Tuesday. The Kent ISD supports local public and even some private and charter school districts in the county, with funding used for programming and cost-cutting measures. Wyoming voters approved a bond proposal and a sinking fund millage proposal for the public school district. The district said the funds raised from the sinking fund millage will be used for a variety of uses, including construction or repair of buildings, security improvements, purchasing or upgrading technology, maintenance, and much more. The $29.75 million bond proposal in Wyoming will be used to complete the district's facilities master plan. And that master plan includes building a new gymnasium at one of the elementaries, updating and enhancing learning spaces, and more. In Ottawa County, voters narrowly approved a $186 million bond proposal for the Zeeland School District. The district says it will be used to fund renovations, playground updates, a Zeeland Stadium update, new classrooms, and a New Zealand Activity Center, and more. And finally, in Muskegon County, Whitehall District Schools' $30 million bond proposal was approved by voters. The district says that it will be used to address critical needs in the district, including improvements to classroom learning environments, enhanced security, and updates to building infrastructure. And now taking a look at some of the proposals that failed, there were two in Kent County. A $230 million bond proposal supporting the Rockford Public Schools District failed, and the Tri-County Area Schools Sinking Fund millage proposal also failed. Then in Muskegon County, the Orchard View Schools operating millage failed. It was a non-homestead millage that levies funds to pay for operational costs of the district beginning at the start of the 2026 school year.
And as you heard there, voters in Rockford rejected that school bond proposal that would have added AC to some schools, updated infrastructure, and upgrade playgrounds, among other things. And we heard from some of those voters on why they said no. Some say they were all for improvements to their district, like adding AC to some schools and improving buildings. But when they saw other additions, they said they felt this bond was not focused on education like it should be. 13 on your side's Lauren Baker has the story.
When it came to Election Day on Tuesday,
the lack of fiscal responsibility is disgusting.
some residents were ready to have their voices heard.
I voted no on the bond proposal.
Abigail McFarland, a Rockford mom, says she voted no to that bond for the Rockford Public Schools because she says it included too many things.
Because a lot of parents would love to have air conditioning in their schools, but we also don't want to be swindled into a new athletic complex that we really don't need.
Brenda Radorsky says the district needs to stop creating new bonds and work with the money it has.
I mean, they received over almost $3 million in the past 4 years from our ESSER funds. $3 million. What'd they do with it?
The $230 million zero mill increase proposal would have taken revenue from the current rate and used it for a number of things, like adding AAC to some elementary schools, creating new gyms and cafeterias, and construction of the RAM Center.
That's why you have elections.
Superintendent Steve Matthews says he and leaders think they missed the mark on explaining what those upgrades in the district would look like, including that RAM Center.
You know, I thought that the RAM Center, as we described it, would have been an educational facility. It would have really helped us build some new classroom space for students, as well as have that indoor turf facility.
But McFarland says improvements like those should have their own bond proposal.
I think that the air conditioning and the building upgrades should be on a separate bond from adding new building.
Matthews says he and leaders will work with community members to create a new proposal, but these women say that will only happen if they're open to listening.
As far as a timeline on that next proposal, Matt says, whoa. 3, 2, 1. As far as a timeline on that next proposal, Matthews told us there are plenty of opportunities to present it during several elections in the next 18 months. But he says don't plan on seeing that proposal anytime soon. Leaders plan to take their time on the next one, and these women hope their opinions will be included in that decision. And as the voters have spoken, those in Muskegon decided handily in favor of that new 12-year term limit for members of the city commission. Local officials had hoped no matter what way people voted, city races could help drive higher turnout.
As I often tell people, it's so important to get out and vote in the local elections because that's what determines your livelihood on a daily basis, your roads, your jobs, your economy. And so it's very important to elect those officials that represent you, that know you, know your community, know what the needs of the community are.
But the language in the term limits proposal had caused a lot of discussion about what it could mean. A letter from the state attorney general's department found that the wording of the proposal could conflict with pre-existing law. But why is that? The proposal said that a person may not serve terms that total more than 12 years. State law says if you were elected for a fixed term, that term could not be shortened outside of resignation or removal for cause. So the language of this proposal, the letter said, could shorten a current term against state law. Mayor Ken Johnson, who unofficial results say won his re-election this week, is already in his 12th year, serving 8 as a commissioner and 4 as mayor. The city had said 6 former commissioners, 1 current commissioner, and the mayor may be ineligible to serve if the charter amendment was enacted. A group pushing for the change wrote in a Facebook post they would not challenge an elected commissioner who sought another term in this election. We talked to the city clerk Wednesday afternoon, who said it was still an open question and she did not know the answer as to how this would be interpreted. So if there are any challenges now or in the future, how this may be interpreted is still unclear. Well, after an order from the governor earlier this year, state departments in Michigan are coming back with their reports, the governor's office said, on how the federal tariff strategy has and will impact our economy. Coming up, what her office says they found. We are now in week 5 of the federal government shutdown, and school leaders in Michigan say children are feeling the impact. The pause in food and early childhood programs is forcing schools to step in where federal support has stopped. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson has how educators say partisan gridlock is failing students.
Some of our most vulnerable kids that we serve in our schools across Michigan are now dealing with the loss of their SNAP benefits at home.
Some school leaders say the federal government shutdown is taking a toll on Michigan's children. With SNAP benefits paused and Head Start programs losing funding, thousands of kids are going without meals and early learning support.
Their family may not have adequate access to healthy foods when they are at home. Our schools are going to do whatever we can to help with that, but it's often the case that these kids are coming to school hungry now, and that means they aren't coming to school ready to learn.
Robert McCann with the K-12 Alliance of Michigan, which represents superintendents and schools statewide, says schools are scrambling to fill the gaps, from sending food home to working with food banks. But now educators are being stretched far beyond their normal roles.
They're also being asked to be experts in healthcare and nutrition and doing so much above and beyond to help and support these kids. And they are happy and proud to do that. But really, it takes time away from then their main function of making sure these kids are learning.
The K-12 Alliance of Michigan reports roughly 35,000 children have already lost Head Start services, and another 3,000 could lose access by December 1st. McCann warns the shutdown could have long-term effects on learning and development.
When students are hungry, they are distracted. They are not at their full potential. So when we talk about needing to improve Michigan's reading scores, and we all agree that that's our goal right now, the loss of Head Start funding, the loss of SNAP food funding, that is going to make that job harder.
Just 3, 2, 1. The shutdown is also affecting utility assistance programs. 13 on your side, Lauren Baker has housed some who rely on that type of help for heat and electricity may also be impacted.
Concern is growing that the government shutdown could stop people from keeping the lights and heat on this winter.
Energy services in Michigan are definitely being impacted by the government shutdown.
That's Rick Bunch, executive director of the Michigan Municipal Association for Utility Issues. He says thousands of households in our state are in jeopardy of not receiving financial assistance from the federally funded Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, better known as LIHEAP, because of the government shutdown.
LIHEAP assistance is somewhere in the neighborhood of half of all energy assistance in the state. Without that coming, these folks are in danger either of having their services shut off or they're going to be going without other life necessities.
Michigan received $183 million from the program. The delay expected in this year's funding is just the cherry on top of a lot of problems, according to Bunch. This past April, the Trump administration fired the entire LIHEAP staff. So while MDHHS says it expects to receive around the same amount of last year, Bunch says how that money is distributed is up in the air.
Even if the rest of the federal government goes back to work, we don't know who would be reviewing and approving those plans. Even if it does happen, it will undoubtedly take longer.
He says this also comes at a time where the number of households living without gas or electric services is increasing, while the number of people using financial assistance is decreasing.
We don't have full understanding of why that's happening. And so what we're looking at is a shortage of funds to help people pay their bills and fewer vulnerable customers who are protected from shutoff. And it's just a recipe for disaster.
But even with the future of LIHEAP in limbo, local agencies are still working to find solutions. Consumers Energy, which uses LIHEAP funding for some of its assistance programs, said in a statement, quote, Michigan is uniquely positioned to support those in need through the state-funded Michigan Energy Assistance Program, which remains open and serves a broader group of qualifying customers. And Bunch says other agencies will adjust to help as many people as possible.
Anybody who needs help should contact their local assistance agencies and their utilities. And it's best to do it now while there is still assistance available.
Because with winter fast approaching, getting the help you need now can help keep the lights on.
13 Food for Families is sponsored by Independent Bank.
And there is still a lot of uncertainty for those who typically rely on benefits from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. This week, the government told a federal judge in Rhode Island they would be using billions in contingency dollars to partially fund the program amid the shutdown. However, later on Thursday, that federal judge instead ordered the government must fully fund the program by Friday. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, which handles the money after it's handed down from the federal level, has now said recipients who normally receive benefits on the 3rd, 5th, and 7th of the month will get their money within 48 hours of MDHHS receiving the funds. Everyone else will receive partial benefits on their normal date. They clarified that would be unless the government has a successful appeal of the judge's ruling. We're told recipients who normally receive benefits on the 3rd, 5th, and 7th of the month will get their money on Saturday. Everyone else will receive partial benefits on their normal date. Despite the announcement, the need in our community is still great. 13 on Your Side is partnering with Feeding America, Heart of West Michigan United Way, Kids Food Basket, the Salvation Army, and Independent Bank to feed our neighbors. Each organization has developed its own plan to alleviate some of the uncertainty around food right now. For more information, text FOOD to the number on your screen or go to 13onyourside.com. And with lingering uncertainty over SNAP benefits, Feeding America West Michigan organized an emergency food drive. 13 on Your Side's Food for Families is helping with the effort. We went to Feeding America's facility this week to find out more about it.
It's efforts like these, distributing much-needed food resources across the region, that Feeding America West Michigan is typically known for.
Behind us right here, we have some of our elected officials and other volunteers actually helping to sort food.
And now the organization putting on an emergency food drive amid major uncertainty for those on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. The USDA directing pauses on November SNAP benefits late last month as the federal government shutdown continued.
Where we're actually encouraging folks to come and drop off their non-perishable food here at the food bank and or at their local food pantry.
The effort coming days after a federal judge had ordered the government to use at minimum billions in contingency funding to keep the program partially going. State lawmakers in Michigan had also begun to act, including with $4.5 million to the Food Bank Council of Michigan.
What's happened in Washington has really helped to, I think, bring in some empathy into all of our hearts and our community's hearts to say what is it that we can be doing to help one another.
The state Senate also passing $71 million in aid, an effort the Republican House Speaker, however, dismissed as political.
So far I would be in support of it, but we'll have to see how the final stages of the agreement is made.
Up against a noon deadline on Monday to give an update on how they would fund it, the federal government responding in court documents that it would partially fund the program with contingency dollars, but would not pull money from elsewhere to fund the rest of the program's cost.
And that funding is great, but it's not going to fund a month. It's going to be a partial funding, and it's going to take us a little bit of time to actually have that funding materialize as money on families' EBT card.
This summer, Governor Gretchen Whitmer ordered a number of state departments to come up with the numbers as to how federal tariffs have and will impact Michigan's economy. Now, her office says departments have come back with their reports. According to the governor's office, all 7 departments required to submit reports found either current impacts or possible impacts to the state's economy from the Trump-backed tariffs. A couple of impacts the governor's office highlighted in summaries of the reports were expected increases in evictions, homelessness, and instability from increased costs of home construction, combined with rising costs of food and other necessities. Increased costs for materials used in road construction and maintenance were also listed, making fixing the roads more costly than originally projected. This comes as the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments involving the legality of the tariff strategy pursued by President Donald Trump's administration. And Governor Whitmer is pushing back against newly announced legislation that aims to dismantle the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, a quasi-public entity that gives out funding earmarked by lawmakers for economic development. The MEDC has come under recent scrutiny after allegations of misuse of parts of a multi-million-dollar grant issued to Farmington Hills businesswoman Faye Baydoun, who was also found to be a donor to the governor's election campaigns. The bill sponsor, Rep. Steve Carra, a Republican, said this new legislation would eliminate the MEDC by essentially not giving it any more money and not allowing it to negotiate new incentive deals with companies.
We need to reassess our approach to this, and the way that we do that is to go right at the belly of the beast, abolish the MEDC, and look into different routes. I believe in less rules, regulations, taxes, fines, and fees in a business-friendly environment where everybody can thrive. We need to quit picking winners and losers and turn it back to the marketplace. The free market is the best regulator.
Governor Whitmer's office shared a statement pushing back against the effort, saying, quote, at a time when Michigan is landing record job creating investments, including in Rep. Carra's district, we should keep our foot on the gas, not throw everything into reverse. The Republican plan would put a closed for business sign at Michigan's border with Ohio and Indiana, killing good-paying jobs and shutter small businesses across the state. These bills are a waste of time, and they are dead on arrival. The governor has her veto pen ready to prevent these bills from destroying the economy. And the cannabis industry in Michigan is bracing for a new tax some fear will hurt local businesses. The state's additional 24% wholesale tax on marijuana included in this year's budget to help with road funding is set to take effect on January 1st, on top of already existing excise and sales taxes. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with one owner about the impact.
It'll make buying cannabis from licensed shops in Michigan there's less incentive to do so when the prices go up.
Michigan's cannabis boom could soon hit a wall, with the steep new 24% wholesale tax taking effect January 1st. Joshua Covert, CEO of Meds Cafe, says the industry is already fighting back in court.
Well, right now there is a lawsuit pending at the Court of Claims that will hopefully, at least stop or temporarily stop the tax, and we're waiting to see what's going on with that.
If the tax stands, Michigan's marijuana will face some of its highest costs yet, stacked on top of the existing 10% excise and 6% sales tax.
The primary argument, from what I understand, is that it circumvents the direct democracy. This was a voter initiative. We put it together as the people of the state of Michigan, and they're essentially circumventing that bill with a new tax.
The Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, representing more than 400 businesses, filed a lawsuit against the tax, calling it unconstitutional. The state says it'll bring in $420 million for road funding, but Covert says the tax, combined with the ongoing federal shutdown, could ripple through the market.
Some processors and growers are anticipating a downturn and a less profitable 2026, and I've seen some layoffs and people getting reduced hours, etc.
Despite the uncertainty, he hopes customers continue to support licensed dispensaries.
Our representatives should know on how their constituents feel about the tax hike, so it's not too late to reach out to them. I would ask people to continue supporting their local licensed dispensaries or provisioning centers, and ignore the price allure of going to the illicit market.
Kiara Patterson, 13 on your side.
OpenAI and Oracle are announcing plans for a sprawling data center south of Ann Arbor. Governor Whitmer is calling this the largest economic project in the state's history. The facility will be part of OpenAI's $500 billion Stargate project. Officials say it could create as many as 450 jobs for the state, along with 1,500 support jobs. Construction on the 250-acre site in Saline Township should start next year. OpenAI is the creator of ChatGPT. Residents of a township in Montcalm County want to recall their treasurer after just a year. They say they're concerned with posts the treasurer's husband made. 13 on your side's Callie Lichter spoke to one of the concerned residents on why she believes the husband's words mean the treasurer shouldn't be serving in public office.
Residents say this isn't political. It comes down to community trust. The husband of a Montcalm County Township treasurer recently gained international attention for videos on social media supporting National Socialist viewpoints. Now, community members want the treasurer to step down.
People are looking at our town and going, oh, cool, yeah, your treasurer is married to a neo-Nazi. And that represents all of us.
Tricia Wells is a former Maple Valley Township Planning Commission member, the same township where Meg Booth was elected treasurer. Wells and others in the community became concerned after an article in a British newspaper profiled Booth's husband, Chris, as a leader in far-right social media, describing himself as a National Socialist.
Technically, he does have free speech and he is allowed to say whatever he wants on his videos. Unfortunately, that article did link him to our town treasurer.
The article links Chris Booth not only to Maple Valley Township, but also as treasurer Meg Booth's husband. In response to emails to Meg Booth requesting an interview about the allegations that her husband is a neo-Nazi and the possible recall effort against her, she said, "I will not be providing a comment or participating in interviews regarding this story. Please consider this my final communication on the matter." Chris Booth has not responded to our request for comment email. Chris Booth's YouTube videos and other social media content are no longer on YouTube, but were downloaded by Wells and another community member. 13 on Your Side was able to find copies of the same videos on a new social media platform that is linked directly from his other social media accounts. The videos Wells says she downloaded from Chris Booth's account show mostly front-facing videos of Chris Booth talking about various subjects, with titles such as "No One Really Believes in Transgenderism," "Black Crimes Matter, Never Relax," and "A Few Reasons I Don't Like Jews, It's Not Complicated." Wells asked for the township board to have trainings to restore faith in the community.
I asked them to attend ethics trainings. I asked for good faith action from Meg. I asked her to hold her own meeting. I was all just told no.
Concerns were brought up at several recorded township meetings, and Wells hosted her own community meeting with Meg Booth. She says at that meeting, Booth did little to disavow her husband.
We can't recall someone because they're married to, a neo-Nazi, but we can recall someone because the community doesn't trust them anymore.
That silence, Wells says, is why Booth needs to be recalled.
She could have clearly just said, I'm not a Nazi, I do not support any of those views, the Holocaust was horrible, whatever. I mean, pick, and I don't know why she didn't.
A statement from the township says in part, "While we acknowledge that free speech, however distasteful it may sometimes be, is a fundamental constitutional right that must be protected, we firmly uphold the principle that all individuals deserve equal respect and dignity. Comments or actions by third parties do not reflect the position of Maple Valley Township or its Board of Trustees." Wells says they will be submitting their petition for a recall vote later this month, which she believes will restore public trust in the township. Wells says they will not stop until their voices are heard. In Maple Valley Township, I'm Callie Lichter, 13 on Your Side.
Dozens showed up at a public hearing this week for a controversial battery energy storage plant proposal in one local township. We'll have that debate and much more in local politics after this. As the federal shutdown continues, the city of Grand Rapids is suspending water shutoffs until further notice. There is also help if you're struggling to pay water and sewage bills during the shutdown. Contact Kent County Community Action, the Kent County Health Department, or the United Way hotline at 211. And the city of Grand Rapids is celebrating 1 year since the launch of its EV car share program. The program started last October with 5 Chevrolet Bolts and has already expanded to 9. It allows users to reserve an electric car for $5 an hour and currently has 200 active users who have driven the cars for 23,000 hours. Anyone interested in signing up can do so at the program's MDO Car Share app, available on Androids and iPhones. The program is open to people 21 and over with a valid driver's license and a clean driving record. The city of Zeeland is one step closer to Sunday alcohol sales. The first reading of that amendment passed this week. 13 on Your Side's Julia Gorman explains what happened at this week's City Council meeting.
The first reading of the Sunday alcohol sales amendment passed tonight, with just one person voting against it. Now, this all comes after lifting a total ban on alcohol sales in the city almost 2 decades ago. Late last month, we told you people spoke during a public hearing, both for and against the idea. While the change isn't official just yet, Mike Gritsmaker, part owner of The Gritsmaker, a restaurant and bar in downtown Zeeland, says Sunday sales at other locations make up 20% of their weekly revenue.
I think it'll help the city with people coming in on Sunday. And then I feel like once everyone sees, that we're making progress, they might also open.
Several emails were also read aloud at the meeting, appearing to offer support for this potential change in the city. Now, it's my understanding the amendment will be voted on again in the very near future. The next city council meeting is set for November 17th. And if that vote also passes, the change would go into effect. It's not exactly clear right now when the change would actually take effect. Reporting in the newsroom, I'm Julie Gorman, 13 on your side.
There's a new deer management program in, 3, 2, 1. There's a new deer management plan in Grand Haven. The city council unanimously approved the plan at a meeting this week. The new plan expands on the original deer management plan passed in 2022. The $25,000 plan calls for the deer population to be managed in order to protect forest areas in Mulligan's Hollow, Lake Forest Cemetery, and Duncan Woods. Culling will be allowed.
There's problems we have with the deer or with anything else in the natural world. They didn't happen overnight. They won't be fixed overnight. And so we're going to have to be a little bit patient, but we'll get there. We also want to be very deliberate about it. And I think we want to track ourselves and measure our progress.
The city, with approval from the DNR, will allow the culling of no more than 50 deer a year. The owners of a New York company say their battery energy... 3, 2, 1. The owners of a New York company say their battery energy storage plant will help with the demand for electricity and provide extra money for Ottawa County's Blendon Township. But dozens who showed up at a public hearing this week don't want it. Key Capture Energy is behind the proposal and says the facility would be used to store power during periods of low demand and put that energy back into the grid. Representatives from the company were at the public hearing to give a presentation on the project and respond to previous public comments. They addressed concerns surrounding health and environmental safety. Dozens of residents spoke out against in opposition. What? 3, 2, 1. Dozens of residents spoke out again in opposition, saying in large part that even though Key Capture says the threat of a fire starting is rare, there is still a chance.
We submit an emergency response plan that they review and approve. The content of that emergency response plan is dictated by code. Casey is currently in communication with Ottawa County Emergency Management as well as the Blendon Township Fire Department and will continue to be for the life of this project.
Fire departments in small communities like ours simply do not have the equipment or specialized training to manage a lithium fire that can burn for days. Locating this facility next to our home puts residents, children, and first responders at an unnecessary risk.
I have a friend who is a chemical engineer, and he said these are the most dangerous things that you can put in. There are fires all the time with these things.
The next step for the proposal is for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation on it. If it's rejected, the company could apply directly to the state. And Consumers Energy says it will continue to comply with the Trump administration's orders and keep the coal-fired J.H. Campbell power plant in Ottawa County running. The plant in Port Sheldon Township was preparing to close in May, but 2 orders from the Department of Energy through the Federal Power Act required them to keep it open. Crane's Grand Rapids reports the company's chief executive said during a conference call he expects the orders from the federal government to be long-term. The utility reportedly says measures taken to prolong the plant's life have cost $80 million roughly since May, which they say could impact everyone's energy rates. The holiday season is upon us, but it may come with a higher price tag for your Thanksgiving feast. After the break, what political levers may be behind it? The cost of food is going up, it seems, and that means your Thanksgiving dinner may cost you more this year. 13 on your side's Peter Elliott talked with a food economist who researched food prices about how things like tariffs, inflation, and supply chain disruption could be causing prices to rise.
This Thanksgiving, before you sit down for dinner, prices at the grocery store could set you back.
We're going to see the price of certain staples of those holiday meals be significantly more expensive than they were last year.
David Ortega is a food economist and professor at Michigan State. He's surveyed the shelves.
So grocery prices are about 2.7% higher than they were a year ago.
Due to a combination of factors like inflation, tariffs, and supply chain disruptions, price increases that can make things even more challenging for those relying on SNAP benefits.
And that's because they spend a significantly higher share of their disposable income on food.
As for the holiday staples, let's talk turkey.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is forecasting wholesale prices for turkeys to be about 40% higher this year than they were last year.
But consumers won't be seeing that steep increase in price.
Many grocery retailers use turkeys as a loss leader. There will be plenty of promotions and plenty of deals on turkeys.
It's the beef roast that could run you much more.
Beef prices are at record highs. And when we look at a product like a beef roast, that is more than 18% higher in price today than it was last year.
If you have your eyes on a chocolate dessert, you should save some room in your wallet.
Chocolate prices are near record highs. A lot of that has to do with supply constraints.
Ortega says the savings can start right now.
Especially for the more shelf-stable products that you can put in your freezer. You can start taking advantage of those sales and promotions pretty early on.
Another way to make Thanksgiving dinner fun and cost-effective, make it a potluck.
That also adds variety, and it's a great conversation starter during the holidays.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.